My name is Thomas Brennan, and I'm 67 years old. If you're starting to watch this now, I need you to take a deep breath, because what I'm about to tell you is something I never imagined could happen in my own family. This is a story about blood, betrayal, and the kind of greed that turns a brother into a stranger. This is about my father, the man who raised us both, and the brother I thought I knew for over 6 decades. I'm a retired firefighter from Phoenix, Arizona. Spent 38 years running into burning buildings while other people ran out. Lost count of how many lives I helped save over those years, but I couldn't save the one that mattered most when it counted. My wife, Patricia, passed away 3 years ago from breast cancer. She was 64. That loss nearly broke me. We'd been married 42 years, raised our daughter Jennifer together in our ranch house in Tempe. Jennifer lives in Boston now, works for a tech company, visits maybe twice a year if we're lucky. My father, William Brennan, is 89 years old, toughest man I've ever known. Marine veteran, worked construction his whole life, built half the houses in our neighborhood with his own hands. But about 18 months ago, things started changing. He'd forget conversations we'd just had, called me Daniel once, which is my younger brother's name. Left the stove on twice in 1 week. His doctor said it was early-stage Alzheimer's, not severe yet, but progressing. He couldn't live alone anymore in that house he'd built himself 50 years ago. My brother Daniel is 63. He's a real estate agent, divorced twice, no kids, always been the charming one, the smooth talker. Where I ran into fires, Daniel ran toward money, and I never judged him for it. We're different people, but he's still my brother. Or at least, I thought he was. When it became clear Dad couldn't manage on his own, Daniel and I had a conversation at Dad's house on a Saturday morning last March. We were going through Dad's bills, and they were piling up. Past due notices, confused payments to the wrong accounts. He needs to be with one of us, I said. I can take him. I've got the space since Patricia passed. Daniel shook his head. Tommy, you're still grieving. That's too much to take on right now. Besides, I work from home most days. I can keep an eye on him. My condo's got that extra bedroom I never use. I looked at my brother. He seemed genuinely concerned, genuinely willing. You sure? It's a big responsibility. He's our father, Daniel said. Of course I'm sure. You took care of Patricia by yourself for 2 years. Let me do this. I felt grateful, relieved, even. I was still struggling with Patricia's absence. The house felt too empty. Some days I could barely take care of myself, let alone my father. Daniel offering felt like an answer to a prayer I hadn't known how to say. Okay, I said. Thank you, Danny. Really. He smiled, put his hand on my shoulder. That's what brothers are for. Dad moved into Daniel's condo in Scottsdale the first week of April. Daniel had fixed up the spare room nicely, got a new bed, a comfortable chair, even put up some of Dad's old Marine Corps photos. Dad seemed content, confused sometimes, but content. I'd visit twice a week, bring groceries, spend afternoons with him while Daniel worked. Those first few weeks seemed fine. Dad would tell me stories about his time in Korea, about building our childhood home, about Mom before she passed 20 years ago. Daniel would join us for dinner, and we'd laugh about old times. It felt like family. But then things started changing. It was subtle at first. Dad seemed more tired during my visits. He'd shuffle more, move slower, like something hurt but he couldn't quite say what. His appetite dropped. The man who used to eat like a horse barely touched the sandwiches I'd bring. Is Dad eating okay? I asked Daniel one evening in early May. Sometimes, Daniel said, not looking up from his laptop. You know how old people get. Picky eaters. He's losing weight, Danny. I'll make sure he eats more. Don't worry about it. But I did worry. I started noticing other things too. Dad seemed scared around Daniel. Not obviously, but in small ways. He'd go quiet when Daniel walked into the room. His hands would shake a little when Daniel asked him questions. If Daniel raised his voice, even slightly, Dad would flinch. One afternoon in late May, I was helping Dad put on his shoes to go for a walk outside. His pant leg rode up, and I saw it. A bruise on his shin, dark purple, the size of a baseball. Dad, what happened here? I asked gently, touching near the bruise. He pulled his leg back quickly. Oh, that! I bumped into the coffee table. Clumsy old fool, that's what I am. But something about the way he said it didn't sit right. The bruise was too high up to be from a coffee table, and the fear in his eyes when I asked, Are you sure? Yes, yes. Don't fuss, Tommy. I'm fine. I wanted to push, to ask more, but he looked so tired, so fragile. I let it go. Told myself he probably did bump into something and just didn't remember correctly. Alzheimer's does that, messes with memory. Over the next few weeks, I became hyper-aware of everything, and I saw more things that made my gut twist. More bruises, one on his forearm, one on his shoulder. Dad always had explanations. Fell against the bathroom counter, knocked into the doorframe. But his explanations were getting vaguer, more uncertain. And then there was the money situation. I'd helped Dad set up his finances years ago. He had his military pension, Social Security, and some savings from selling his construction business. Not a fortune, but enough to live comfortably. He'd always been careful with money, but when I helped him check his bank statement in June, I noticed something strange. Large withdrawals. 2,000 here, 3,000 there, all marked as cash withdrawal or check. Dad, did you need cash for something? I asked, pointing to the statement. He looked confused, squinting at the numbers. I don't remember taking out any money. It says here you withdrew $3,000 2 weeks ago. I did? He looked genuinely bewildered. I don't remember that. I felt cold dread settling in my stomach. Where do you keep your checkbook? Daniel has it. He said he'd help me pay bills so I don't get confused. That made sense on the surface. But something felt wrong. $3,000 in cash? What would an 8-9-year-old man with Alzheimer's need with that much cash? I asked Daniel about it that evening. He was in his home office, door half closed. Danny, I saw Dad's bank statement. There's some big withdrawals. Do you know anything about that? He glanced up, barely breaking his focus from his computer. Yeah, Dad needed some things. Medical supplies, that wheelchair the insurance wouldn't cover. Stuff like that. $3,000 worth? It adds up, Tommy. You know healthcare costs. He turned back to his screen. I'm handling it. Don't micromanage. I stood there for a moment, feeling dismissed. Daniel had never talked to me like that before. We'd always been close, despite our different paths, but there was an edge in his voice now, an irritation I didn't recognize. I'm not micromanaging, I said carefully. I'm just concerned about Dad, and I'm the one taking care of him every day, Daniel said sharply. Maybe trust me a little. I left it alone. But I didn't stop noticing. By July, Dad's condition had deteriorated noticeably. He was thinner, more withdrawn, barely speaking during my visits. The spark in his eyes, that marine toughness, was fading into something that looked like defeat and fear, always fear. One afternoon, I arrived earlier than usual. Daniel's car wasn't in the parking lot. He must have gone out. I used my key to let myself in, called out, but no answer. I found Dad in his room, sitting in his chair, staring at nothing. Hey, Pop, I said softly. It's Tommy. He turned slowly, and his face crumpled when he saw me. Actual tears in his eyes. My father, who I'd never seen cry, not even at Mom's funeral, was crying. Dad, what's wrong? I knelt beside his chair, took his hand. I want to go home, Tommy. His voice was broken, small. Please, take me home. You are home, Dad. You're staying with Daniel, remember? No. He gripped my hand with surprising strength. I want to go to my house, the one I built. Please, son, please. Dad, you can't live alone anymore. You know that. He started crying harder. Then take me with you. Don't leave me here. My heart was breaking. Why, Dad? What's wrong? Is Daniel not taking care of you? He opened his mouth, then closed it, looked toward the door like he was checking if someone was there, then whispered, He gets angry. What do you mean? When I forget things, when I can't remember, he gets so angry. Dad's hands were shaking. I try to remember, Tommy. I try so hard, but I can't. And then he what? Dad pulled his hand away, closed his eyes. I don't want to cause trouble. He's your brother. Dad, if something's happening, you need to tell me. But he just shook his head, retreated back into himself. I'm tired. I need to rest. I heard the front door open. Daniel's voice calling out, Dad, you okay? Dad's whole body tensed. That fear again, unmistakable now. Daniel appeared in the doorway. Tommy, didn't know you were coming by. Just checking on Dad. He's fine, Daniel said quickly. Actually, he needs his nap. Don't want to throw off his routine. I looked at my father, who wouldn't meet my eyes anymore. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow. I drove home with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. Something was very wrong. My gut had been telling me for weeks, but I'd ignored it because I didn't want to believe it. Didn't want to believe my own brother could hurt our father, but I couldn't ignore it anymore. The bruises, the missing money, the fear. Dad literally begging me to take him away. That night, I barely slept. Kept thinking about what Dad had said. He gets angry. What did that mean? Was Daniel yelling at him? Worse? I thought about confronting Daniel directly, just asking him straight out if he was hurting Dad. But what if he denied it? What if he cut off my access to Dad? What if I was wrong, and I was about to destroy my relationship with my only living family over a misunderstanding? No, I needed proof. Real, concrete proof. The next morning, I drove to an electronics store in Mesa. Told the kid working there I needed a small security camera for my home. He showed me several options. I picked one that was tiny, had night vision, could record to a memory card for days, motion activated. Cost me $180. I paid cash. I brought it home and spent an hour figuring out how to set it up. My hands shook the whole time. What I was about to do felt wrong, sneaky, like I was betraying my brother's trust. But the image of Dad's tears, that fear in his eyes, kept me going. I waited until Wednesday. Daniel had mentioned he had property showings all afternoon, would be gone for hours. I drove to the condo, let myself in with my key. Dad was napping. I went into Dad's room, my heart pounding. Looked around for the best place to hide the camera. It needed a clear view of the room, but couldn't be obvious. I finally settled on the bookshelf across from Dad's bed. Tucked it behind a framed photo of Dad and Mom on their wedding day. Adjusted the angle. The lens was so small, just a tiny black dot. Unless you knew to look for it, you'd never see it. I turned it on, set it to motion activation, and left quietly. Then I waited. That night, lying in my empty house, I couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything. What would the camera show? Was I about to discover something that would shatter what was left of my family? Or was I just a paranoid old man who'd wasted $200 on nothing? I forced myself to wait 2 days before checking it. Wanted to make sure I had enough footage. Those were the longest 2 days of my life. Every time my phone rang, I expected it to be Daniel, calling to tell me he'd found the camera, demanding to know what the hell I was doing. But the call never came. Friday afternoon, Daniel texted me that he was showing properties all day, wouldn't be home until evening. Perfect. I drove to the condo, my hands sweating on the steering wheel. Dad was in the living room, watching an old western on TV. Hey, Pop. Just going to check something in your room real quick. He nodded absently, eyes on the TV. I went into his room, heart hammering. Retrieved the camera from behind the photo, slipped it into my jacket pocket. See you later, Dad. I drove straight home. Sat in my office, door closed. Took the memory card out of the camera with shaking hands. Plugged it into my computer. The video player loaded. There were multiple files, each triggered by motion. I started with the first one, from Wednesday night, 11:47 p.m. according to the timestamp. The night vision gave everything that eerie green glow. I could see Dad sleeping peacefully in his bed, chest rising and falling. For about 3 minutes, nothing happened. I almost skipped ahead. Then the door opened. Daniel walked in. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, moving quietly. He walked over to Dad's bed and just stood there, looking down at him. For a moment, I thought maybe he was just checking on him, making sure he was okay. But then Daniel reached down and shook Dad's shoulder. Hard. Dad woke up, confused. disoriented. I could see him trying to sit up. Then Daniel started talking. The camera's audio wasn't great, but I could hear enough. "Wake up, old man. We need to talk." Dad's voice, weak and confused. "Daniel, what time is it?" "Doesn't matter. I need you to sign something." "Sign what?" "I'm sleeping." "This?" Daniel held up some papers. "It's just paperwork for your medical insurance. Sign here." I watched as Dad squinted at the papers in the dim light. "I can't see. Can we do this in the morning?" "No, we do it now." Daniel's voice was hard, impatient. He shoved a pen into Dad's hand, held the papers in front of him. "I don't understand what this is." Dad sounded scared now. "You don't need to understand. Just sign it." "But I can't see." "Just sign it!" Daniel's voice exploded, and Dad flinched back like he'd been hit. My hands clenched into fists, watching this. My baby brother, yelling at our 8-9-year-old father in the middle of the night. Dad's hand shook as he scrawled something on the paper. Okay. I signed it." Daniel snatched the papers away. Finally, "Jesus Christ, you make everything so difficult." "I'm sorry," Dad whispered. "I'm sorry. I just couldn't see." "Yeah, well, maybe if you weren't such a useless old fool." Daniel turned to leave, then stopped, turned back. "And don't you dare tell Tommy about this. You understand me? If you tell him anything, I'll put you in a home. One of those places where they strap you to the bed and let you rot. Got it?" Dad nodded, tears streaming down his face. Daniel left. The door closed, and I watched my father curl up under his blanket and sob quietly into his pillow. I sat at my computer, unable to move, unable to breathe. That couldn't have been real. That couldn't have been my brother. Daniel, who I'd played catch with as kids, who'd been my best man at my wedding, who'd held my hand at Patricia's funeral. But it was him. I just watched him terrorize our father. I forced myself to keep watching. The next file was from Thursday night, similar time. Daniel came in again, woke Dad up again. This time, he was demanding to know where Dad had put some legal documents. "I don't know," Dad kept saying. "I don't remember." "You have to remember, they were right on your desk." "I don't remember moving them. I'm sorry." "Sorry. Doesn't cut it." Daniel grabbed Dad's arm, yanked him partially out of bed. I could see Dad's face contort in pain. "Think, old man. Where did you put them?" "I don't know. Please, you're hurting me." Daniel shoved him back onto the bed. Worthless. Absolutely worthless. There was more. 3 nights of footage. 3 nights of my brother coming into Dad's room, waking him up, yelling at him, forcing him to sign papers he couldn't see, couldn't understand, grabbing him roughly, calling him names, threatening him. In one clip, Dad wet himself from fear when Daniel was yelling, and Daniel's response was to mock him. "Great. Now I have to clean up your piss like you're a baby. This is what my life has become." The last clip broke me completely. It was from Friday morning, before I'd retrieved the camera. Daniel came in early, around 6 a.m., woke Dad up by pulling the blanket off him. "Get up. We're going to the bank today." "The bank?" Dad was shaking. "Why?" "Because I need you to sign some withdrawal forms. Your account, my name, makes things easier." "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand." Daniel's voice was cold, mechanical. "You're sick, Dad. You've got Alzheimer's. You can't manage your money anymore. I'm helping you. This way, when you need care, when you need to go into a home, the money will be there." "But Tommy said," "Tommy doesn't know anything. And you're not going to tell him." Daniel leaned close to Dad's face. "Because if you do, I'll tell him you're getting worse. That you're violent. That you tried to hit me. And then you'll go to a locked facility where they'll drug you up and you'll spend your last days drooling in a wheelchair. Is that what you want?" "No," Dad whispered. "Please, no." "Then shut up and do what I say." I stopped the video. I couldn't watch anymore. I sat there in my office, shaking, crying, rage and grief mixing until I couldn't tell them apart. My brother was financially abusing our father, stealing from him, terrorizing him, and I'd let it happen. I'd let Dad move in with him. I'd trusted him. How could I have been so blind? I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. Eventually, the shock wore off enough that I could think. I needed help. I couldn't confront Daniel alone. I needed the law. I called a lawyer. Looked up elder abuse attorney Phoenix on my phone with shaking hands. Found a firm called Henderson and Associates. Told the receptionist it was an emergency. She put me through to a lawyer named Marcus Henderson. I explained everything. Told him about the bruises, the fear, the missing money. Told him about the camera footage. "Mr. Brennan," he said when I finished, "what you've described is textbook elder abuse and financial exploitation, criminal offenses in Arizona. Do you still have the camera footage?" "Yes. All of it. Don't touch it. Don't delete anything. That's evidence. We need to move quickly. How soon can you meet with me?" "Right now." I drove to his office, brought my laptop, sat across from Marcus Henderson, a sharp-looking guy, maybe 40 years old, and showed him the videos. He watched them all, his jaw getting tighter with each one. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Your brother is going to prison, Mr. Brennan, and you're going to get your father away from him today." "Today?" "We're calling Adult Protective Services right now, and the police. With this evidence, they'll remove your father immediately and arrest your brother." He looked at me seriously. "Are you prepared for that? For what this means for your family?" I thought about Dad crying in that bed, about the fear in his eyes, about Daniel's cold voice threatening to lock him away. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." Marcus made the calls. Within 2 hours, an APS investigator arrived at his office. A woman named Susan Martinez, maybe 50, who'd been doing this work for 20 years. I showed her the videos. I showed her the bank statements I'd brought, highlighting the withdrawals. She took notes, asked questions, her face grave. "Mr. Brennan, I'm going to the condo now with a police officer to assess your father's situation and remove him if necessary. Will you come with us?" "Yes." We drove in separate cars, Susan in her official vehicle, me following. A Phoenix PD patrol car met us at Daniel's condo building. My heart was pounding as we walked up to the door. Susan knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder. The door opened. Daniel stood there, surprised. "Tommy? What's going on?" "Mr. Daniel Brennan." Susan held up her ID. "I'm Susan Martinez with Adult Protective Services. We have reports of elder abuse and exploitation at this residence. I need to speak with William Brennan immediately." Daniel's face went white, then red. "What? This is insane. Tommy, what did you do?" "Step aside, sir," the police officer said. Daniel looked at me, and I saw it. Rage. Pure hatred. "You're making a huge mistake." "Where's Dad?" I asked. Susan pushed past him. I followed. We found Dad in his room, sitting in his chair, looking confused and frightened. "Dad," I said gently. "It's okay. I'm here." Susan knelt beside him. "Mr. Brennan, I'm Susan. I'm here to help you. Can you tell me how you've been feeling?" Dad looked at her, then at me, then at Daniel standing in the doorway. His lip trembled. "You don't have to be afraid," Susan said softly. "You're safe now." And then Dad did something that confirmed everything. He reached out and grabbed my hand, held it tight, and whispered, "Take me home, Tommy. Please." Susan stood up, looked at the police officer. "We're removing him. Now." What happened next was a blur. The officer read Daniel his rights for interfering with a protective services investigation. Susan called for a medical assessment team. I packed Dad's things while Daniel yelled, threatened, said he was calling his lawyer. "You do that," Susan said calmly. "And you can explain to them why there's video footage of you abusing your father." Daniel's face drained of color. "What video?" I looked at him then. Really looked at him. Saw a stranger. The paramedics arrived, checked Dad over. Found the bruises, the weight loss, signs of malnutrition and dehydration. They recommended taking him to the hospital for a full evaluation. I rode in the ambulance with him, held his hand the whole way. He kept saying, "Thank you, Tommy. Thank you." At the hospital, they ran tests, took photographs of every bruise, every mark. A doctor examined him thoroughly. Dad told them everything about the late-night wake-ups, the forced signatures, the threats. Once he started talking, it all poured out. The doctor called the police. Detectives showed up, took Dad's statement, took my statement. I showed them the camera footage on my laptop. They arrested Daniel that evening, charged him with elder abuse, financial exploitation, and fraud. The bank statements showed he'd withdrawn nearly $40,000 from Dad's accounts over 3 months. The papers he'd been forcing Dad to sign, power of attorney documents, changes to Dad's will, authorization forms to access his pension. My brother had been slowly stealing everything Dad had. The legal process took months. Daniel got a lawyer, tried to fight it, claimed Dad was senile, that he was just helping manage finances, that the video was taken without consent and should be inadmissible. But Arizona law is clear. Elder abuse is a serious crime, and forcing someone with dementia to sign legal documents in the middle of the night while threatening them, that's exploitation, plain and simple. The prosecutor was a tough woman named Rachel Ortiz. She took one look at those videos and told me, "We're going to put him away." Dad couldn't live alone, and he couldn't live with me either. I was honest with myself. I didn't have the medical knowledge, the patience, the resources to care for someone with advancing Alzheimer's. But I found a place, a memory care facility in Phoenix called Sunrise Gardens. It's one of the best in the state. Private rooms, caring staff, activities designed for people with dementia. It cost Dad's pension plus some of his savings, but he had enough. Would have had a lot more if Daniel hadn't stolen from him. I moved Dad and myself, helped him settle into his room, hung up his marine photos, brought his favorite chair. He seemed peaceful there, in a way he hadn't been in months. The trial happened 10 months after Daniel's arrest. I testified. The doctors testified. The bank representatives testified about the fraudulent withdrawals. Susan Martinez testified about the conditions she found Dad in, and they played the videos in court, all of them. The jury watched my brother terrorize our father, watched him steal from him, watched him threaten to lock him away. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced Daniel to 5 years in prison. When he finishes his sentence, he'll have 10 years probation. He's required to pay back every cent he stole, plus damages. He's banned from ever having power of attorney or accessing any elderly person's finances again. I was there at the sentencing. Daniel looked at me across the courtroom, and I didn't see my brother anymore. I saw a stranger who'd betrayed the man who raised us both. Dad lived in Sunrise Gardens for another year and 3 months. The Alzheimer's progressed, as it always does. Toward the end, he didn't know who I was most days, but he knew he was safe. He knew he was cared for, and he knew he wasn't alone. He passed away peacefully in his sleep last March. 89 years old, Marine, father, builder. A good man who deserved better than what his own son did to him. I'm 70 now. Daniel got out of prison 6 months ago. I haven't spoken to him. He tried calling once. I didn't answer. What would we even say to each other? Jennifer flew in for her grandfather's funeral. She held my hand through the whole service. She told me she was proud of me for protecting her grandfather, for doing the right thing even when it was hard. But the truth is, I'm not proud. I'm haunted by the months I missed it, the signs I ignored because I didn't want to believe. The nights Dad spent terrified while I slept in my comfortable house, trusting my brother. I share this story because elder abuse is happening everywhere. In nice condos, in good neighborhoods, in families that look normal from the outside, and the abusers are often the people we trust most. Children, siblings, spouses, caregivers. If you notice someone elderly in your life, showing these signs, unexplained bruises, sudden weight loss, fear of certain people, confusion about their finances, withdrawal, regression, please don't ignore it. Don't tell yourself you're overreacting. Don't let politeness or family loyalty stop you from investigating. Document everything. Take photos of injuries. Get copies of bank statements. If you need to, do what I did. Get a camera. Get proof. Because without proof, they'll deny it. They'll make excuses. They'll call you crazy. Talk to professionals. Adult Protective Services exists in every state. Call them. They're trained for this. Call elder abuse hotlines. Call lawyers who specialize in this. Call the police. Yes, it will be hard. Yes, it might destroy relationships. Yes, people will be angry with you. But a vulnerable person's safety matters more than keeping the peace. It matters more than family harmony. It matters more than anything. My father is gone now. But before he died, there were good days. Days when he'd smile at me across the table at Sunrise Gardens. Days when he'd tell me stories about Korea, about building houses, about Mom. Days when I could see in his eyes that he knew I'd protected him, that he was grateful. Those days were worth everything I lost. If you're watching this because you suspect someone you love is being abused, please act. Don't wait. Don't hope it will get better. Get help. Get proof. Get them to safety. And if you're the one being hurt, if you're scared, if someone is stealing from you or threatening you or hurting you, know this. You are not alone. You are not a burden. You deserve safety. You deserve dignity. You deserve people who will fight for you. Tell someone. Anyone. A neighbor, a doctor, a stranger at the grocery store. Someone will listen. Someone will help. I failed my father for 3 months. But I didn't fail him forever. And you don't have to either. Be vigilant. Be brave. Be the person who speaks up. Because silence protects abusers. Truth protects the vulnerable. And in the end, truth is all that matters.